you buy?
Recording it.
Always record at the club. 'Cause I don't want it to be on here. So we're ready for it.
Yes, I'm working off here, Mike.
Can you hear Todd?
Yeah,
Okay. Hmm. Damn, Mike, it's showing up like a Kamala Harris campaign.
yeah.
No, it's not how many people care about what you do, it's how you spend it, right?
Right.
I'm gonna stop the share.
Worst case scenario, we just
Let's go through it on our own,
working on
do
and
it for
get
Todd.
ready- and get ready for number two.
So you got some food on you.
If no one shows up by about 10 after, then we'll just cut it off.
We'll just do it for Todd.
Oh,
Plus, we got a re-recording it to go up to YouTube as well.
are we recording now or no?
Yeah.
Should stop it and start it all over so we look better. Or you
Yeah,
can,
we just, I just
edit
cut
it.
out I edited out all these parts. I know how to
Okay.
do that now.
oh, good.
They call that progress.
We went from here now with this YouTube editing.
That's right, I don't know. I'm pretty sure whatever I do is dangerous, but I know more now. Let's just say that. Okay, so I talked to escrow officer in Sarasota today,
Oh,
asking her about stuff in West, and I talked to another escrow officer in just north of there, Bradenton. So between our conversations, probably an hour and a half of conversations talking about the Western market. Anyway,
what state was that in?
Florida,
Where?
Florida.
Florida. Okay.
Yeah, super interesting stuff.
Yeah, Florida's getting hammered with property tax, and there's a few other issues that are going on there.
Yeah, well, that's what we need to find out is, anyway, the prices are coming down on some of these markets.
Yes.
Cape Coral, the usual ones.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't know till yesterday, I never thought about it, and I didn't see it on the map. The Cape Coral has no beach. Even though it's right there on the ocean, it doesn't have beach. Like you can't get there from here.
Right.
So I
Those
don't know if
markets-
it's rocky cliffs or I don't know what it is, but anyway, I
Yeah,
thought that was really interesting.
Florida and many of those markets is very predictable with the cycles, so they're going to be affected. But I think we'll see a stabilization if the mortgage rates go down a little bit. If it drops 1%, there's going to be a lot of refis going on and a lot of potential purchasing. Plus, across the state that I'm seeing across the nation.
Well, the mortgage rates have already dropped about a half point.
Yeah, but they got to drop more.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
And what we're seeing is a lot of the single family houses are sitting because the inventory's increased. Even here in Tennessee, single family has slowed a little bit.
Yeah.
Everything was so inflated. And my contractor that I do some work with, he just bought a fixer They were asking 325, and he's in contract for 240.
Wow.
And it's a 3-1 all brick, 3.5 acres.
That's what we're kind of thinking of doing with the family. Buying stuff that needs work, and then you can go in and refinance it and hold it
Right.
long term,
And
but buy
it's
it well under.
and it's unrestricted.
Oh, so he can put more lots on it, whatever.
Yeah, you can
How
put
big is it?
mobile homes, 3.5 acres. And
Oh,
the house is 1,600, so it's a 3-1, and he's gonna probably push it to a 3-2.
hmm.
And so it's a great project for him. He's a contractor, so he's obviously can get the work done for a lot cheaper because
Yeah.
he can just send his employees
It
out there.
doesn't pay himself.
Yeah. And anyway, so I was talking with him yesterday. Those are the kind of
Cool.
things that are available out there now.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the stuff that we want to take advantage of with our family. We're looking to put together an LLC and then do some, basically kind of the burst strategy, or do some development depending on where and what.
If you guys are ready to do that and I'm out here, I can bird dog a lot of those different things because I know a lot of the agents out here.
Right, but the problem is that they don't rent very well. I mean, they
Uh,
rent really well, but the rents are not high enough relative to what we're buying.
mm-mm.
You don't
No,
think
that's
so?
not true. One of my houses that I drove you by
Yeah,
just went vacant. It was rented for 1,800.
yeah,
It just re-rented for 22.
yeah, but it's still not enough. Hey,
Yeah.
Omar, how's it going?
All right, guys, how you doing?
Doing
Good.
mighty fine today, mighty fine.
Good. All right. How big a group you got?
Well, it's small today. Apparently, we had quite a few people sign up, but you're the first one who's showed up.
Okay, all right. I was running a little late, huh?
You get you get everything.
The personal touch.
All right, good deal.
Anyway, Omar, this is stuff we put together a few years ago. It took me a long time to figure this one out. It's basically the 5 different ways that you make money. Most people don't know it, and they don't know that they don't know it.
Well, I mean, it got my interest because I've kind of been in and out of the business for some time, and so, but it did hit home. I'm familiar with, I'm familiar with some of those ideas, especially the adding, trying to add value typically once you acquire a piece of property. Yeah.
Yeah,
Almost everything I acquire, that's the most critical, concentration for me. That is
yeah,
trying to buy it right for starters, making the money when you buy, and then of course, looking at the property or the project and looking for ways to add value.
yep, yep. Those are the ways, and there's kind of 2 kinds of investors, really. Those that are doing what you're doing, which is you make money on the buy and you make money on the value add, and then the other
Correct.
investors who are like hold long term, which is you make money on the appreciation
Correct.
And the
Debt reduction.
tax benefits and paying down the loan.
Mm-hmm.
So Omar, where do you buy?
I've pretty much lived in Sacramento and operated in Sacramento on and off for probably the last 20 years. I consider myself an investor developer type. The last 3-4 years, I've been doing more ground up type of projects in the sense, doing a parcel map or a small subdivision map.
Yeah,
And then just doing the build out sometimes. Most of the times, at least the ones I've done so far, I've been doing the build out. But of course, challenges with a lot of with permitting is creating some frustrations, quite frankly. And so I'm actually thinking I'm going to pivot more and more to fixer uppers, especially starting next year. Yeah, because I mean, I had a project in Yolo County, for instance, in Woodland, for instance, that took me 9 months to get the building permits, and that just it killed the project because I had 2 construction loans in place as I was acquiring.
Oh,
Thinking that in 60 to 90 days I was going to have the permits, and of course, so once it took 9 months, from the get go, I was behind the 8 balls from the from the onset at that point, and so it became it's still a challenge, quite frankly, because I'm not done with the project yet.
Yeah.
Welcome to California.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, are you from somewhere else? Were you born and raised here?
I was born in West Africa. I came here to go to college. Got into the business about 12 years before the crash of 08. Made a lot of money, lost a lot of money when the market crashed, of course. But it kind of it got the whole thing got compounded because 3 years before I had started another company outside the country.
Mhm.
And so when the market crashed, it really made it, what the safety net I thought I had just watched it vaporized in about 24 months.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
I
so and
understand.
I was out of the country for like 8 years, came back about 3-4 years ago. So now essentially trying to pick up the pieces.
Yeah. So, where did you live outside the country?
At Nigeria. I was born in
Nigeria.
West Africa. I'm originally from Nigeria.
Okay.
Never really left until 2010 when I just decided. Actually, I started that company in 2005.
Yeah.
But then decided to just go devote my time to it in 2010, and then got stuck there for another 8, 10, almost another 8, 9 years.
Yeah. What was it successful?
No. Okay. Well, initially it was, but over time, changes in the fluctuations in currency, in the local currency and the economy taking taking a dive, made it. It became, it became untenable to actually continue after about 6, 7 years. So at some point, I just said I needed to pull the plug and come back here, try to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, should we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Omar, thanks again for coming.
Sure.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, I think I've actually watched you live once or twice when this was before COVID,
Huh?
when we had the
Oh, the
one
investor
of
group?
these local investment groups in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Which one? NorCal RIA or?
I think it may have been North Korea or the round table, the real estate round table.
Oh,
One
yeah,
or the other. I
the
don't
round table was
remember now.
great
Yeah.
until COVID killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was fun, but
The one that
COVID
was,
killed it well.
yeah.
Didn't you present one time, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I thought the name was familiar.
Yeah. Capital City Wealth Builders, that one for a while, and then NorCal RIA
Okay.
with Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, Dave just sold NorCal RIA to somebody last year.
Mhm.
Oh, I see.
So they did a change. He's still working. He's still going. You may be interested in going over there. They do a lot with flips, and a lot of what we do is just helping investors understand the long-term investments,
Yeah.
Okay.
buying and holding.
We like hassle-free, long-term. Once you start doing flips and those kind of things, that just brings in a layer of work. Not everybody can do it full time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of energy, and there's just a lot of investors that just want the simple investment and the most secure, which makes sense. So for certain people, that just makes great sense for long term. It's like building an IRA account.
Correct.
10 years
Well,
later, it's $1 million.
yeah. It's one of the things I'm actually trying to focus on now. Once I can free up a little bit of money, because I'm much more preoccupied with with producing income now, quite frankly.
Yeah,
So it's sure, the flips, of course, you can make a huge chunk, but when you don't have income coming in, which is one of my big challenges right now, if you don't have income coming in on a regular basis, then of course it presents a whole different a whole different challenge.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so that's something I'm actually very interested in at this point. Trying to find ways to, acquire the kinds of properties that would allow me to just produce income, from holding long term. Tomorrow I'm actually trying to go to something having to do. Well, last week I should say I went to something having to do with Airbnb, trying to learn a little bit about that space and how you can acquire properties how I can acquire properties that I could perhaps that um, get register under that platform, so to speak. Yeah, so
Airbnb and VRB and all that stuff is a really good system. But if you don't manage it yourself, the fees that are taken out of it are pretty hefty.
I see.
And that's what you have to look at. So if you're getting $200 a night, many of the companies that manage it, they're going to take 50%, 40% of that right off the top. So
that's
just be
pretty
aware.
steep.
Yeah, just run your numbers, just be aware.
Okay. Well, I'm just doing the research now. I think I'm a little far away from kicking it off. I think I was at least a year perhaps from being able to kick off something, but I'm trying to learn as much as I can. Not just the Airbnb space, but generally just trying to do the kinds of acquisition that would allow me to produce income long term.
Right. Well, COVID really hurt the Airbnb business for about a year because nobody would go and rent them.
Yeah, I
They
see.
got vacant. So the
Sure.
people that actually used them as a business, they got hit hard, and it was
I bet.
brutal.
I bet. Yeah.
So,
Have they bounced
okay.
back yet?
what's that?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's just that the consumers are a little bit more conservative now. They just want the really nice places. They want the designated locations, water, lakes,
Sure.
that kind of stuff, Tahoe, and then
Yeah,
across the
destination
country.
locations.
Yeah,
Mhm.
vacation type of destinations, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Mike, let's get started. So
Yes, sir.
thank you for
Bye.
coming.
Sure.
Today we're talking about 5 ways to make money in residential real estate. And we're Gobi Right. Our intention as real estate consultants, we intend to inform our clients so they can make better decisions, reduce their risk thereby, and get higher returns. But we also help to instruct people how to build and restructure portfolios of residential properties. So we work with small investors, predominantly in residential income properties and the single family homes, duplexes to fourplexes, and condos as well. Long-term investments are really our focus, not short-term, not flipping, and building portfolios to retire. Now, one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is the knowledge tower, which is essentially a body of understanding that each investor should have in their brain regarding things like how real estate works, what the landscape of real estate is, that is the market situations, what their own situations are, and the best opportunities that are available. And then they can make informed decisions and be able to maximize returns and minimize risks. This presentation today talks mostly in the area of how real estate works. 5 ways to make money. Before we jump into that, I want to talk about 2 ways you make money. One is cash flow, and that is money that comes in every month. The other one is equity position, which is money that is accumulated over time. And they're not the same. So you can have cash flow and equity position, but equity position accumulates over time. Cash flow pays out on a monthly basis. Equity really only pays out when you refinance or when you sell. So you can use, like, the way I use these 5 ways to make money is when looking at an investment, I can look at it from a variety of different aspects to see which ones are going to produce the returns, and thereby compare different investments against each other, and also use it when qualifying a portfolio to be able to see which ones I want to keep, which ones I want to change out, and what I want to move forward with. The 5 different ways to make money are the inherent value, that is the value inherent in the property when you purchase or whenever you're looking at it. If you have a long-term portfolio, you can still look at the inherent value in a property, and we'll cover that in a second. Ways to add value: appreciation over time, leverage, which is loans, and tax benefits. First was inherent value. 2 ways to look at this. You can look at it as a purchase or properties that you already own if you have a portfolio of properties. You can look at cash flow from rent. So if you're looking at investment property, if you're looking at if you're going to buy a property, let's say you look at 5 different properties, you want to see what's the cash flow and the cash flow returns for each of those properties. So you can compare them together. And if you're buying them off the multiple listing service, there may be one that has an equity position, and usually they won't. But sometimes if you're buying it directly from a seller, you'd expect to get an equity position in the property. If you already own the property, then you have current rents and there is a current value on the property. So based on whatever amount of debt that you have, that's how you qualify the equity, and the amount of rents relative to what it could be, because you may be able to raise rents, and that would be inherent value that you're missing out on because you haven't raised the rent yet. So let's talk a little bit about cash flow. It's gross rents minus the mortgage payment, utilities, property taxes, insurance, landscaping, and other expenses. That's your cash flow. Reoccurring expenses, some of those are property management, utilities, landscaping, property taxes, insurance. And non-recurring expenses, property maintenance, repairs, and turnover costs. Occasionally you have those where a tenant vacates the property and you have to re-rent it up. You may have to do an eviction to get them to vacate the property. And there may be a cost to get it rent ready. And usually there's a cost to install the new tenant in from the property management company. If you're looking at equity position at the purchase, it's fair market value minus the purchase price, closing costs, and any other costs. That gives you your equity position. If you have repairs, then add that into the mix. So I have seen in the past where a property would sell for $150,000 that needs repair. It's worth $170,000 once the repairs are done, but it's $25,000 worth of repairs. That's a property that has a negative equity position. The 150 plus the 25, all else being equal, it puts you at 175, where the value of the property down the street that could be in similar condition but not need the repairs would be 170. That's not a good buying proposition. And if you already own the property, look at what the estimated value of the property would be if you sold it, subtract the closing costs and the loan value, and that gives you your current equity position. Add value. Mike, why don't you take it from here?
Okay, add value, repair it, solve the current problems to make it habitable. So you can go in and do it, all the repairs, add a bathroom, add an extra bedroom if it's available, and then repair it, solve the current problems to make it habitable. You know, you might want to remodel the kitchen. Bathrooms may need to be remodeled or fixed. Sometimes flooring in the wet areas, which would be the bathrooms and the kitchen, might need to be repaired, improve it, and then sometimes convert the garage into living space. Add value, basically do the repairs, solve the current problems to make it habitable again. Like I just said, you know, add on to it, If there is space inside the footprint to add a bedroom or add a bathroom, or improve the area, that's can be done, and then add on. If the footprint is easy and the pitch is easy, you could push out, add an extra room, add bedroom, add a master bathroom, master bedroom, etc.
Okay,
And then-
next is, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, appreciation. Yeah. Talk about some things in the market. The market appreciates over time, but there's also inflation in the market, which is things generally cost more this year than they did last year. So here is the consumer prices from Fed, and that's the amount of inflation, which is tracked that way. From Fed just tracks it, and it shifts year over year, and sometimes it's 5 or more percent, and more commonly it's at 2 or 3%. Fed has said that they like inflation to be around 2% a year. But this varies by year, and it allows for the value of properties to increase over time. So here's the home sales price for homes throughout the United States. And it was obviously much lower back in the 60s, and now it is well over 400,000. And you can see that market went up, and then down in 2008, 9, and 10, had the Great Recession, and then it's been going back up, went flat in the years to 2020, and then spiked in 2020 up with COVID and people and the demand for housing increasing substantially. And now that the interest rates are higher, things have kind of leveled off. Appreciation of over 30 years, you're probably already familiar with it. Basically, if you have a property that is $400,000, you put 25% down, you have 3.5% annual growth. It's going to be worth over $1 million in 30 years. And we have had more than 3.5%. It's been closer to 4.5% annual growth throughout the United States over the last several years. So you can see how that has increased in the past. Not all markets are the same. The black line is the same for both. That's the median for the US. This is through the National Association of Realtors, and it's taken by quarters. That's why it doesn't look exactly like the other graph, but it's fairly close. I found the National Association of Realtor numbers here is pretty close to what I've seen for the markets that I'm aware of. So this is the Sacramento market. You can see that it started almost the same as the United States back in '89. Went up dramatically in '90, peaked, went down to '97, back up to 2005, went down again. And so some markets are more volatile. You can see on the right-hand side, Akron, Ohio, substantially less volatile than the national market. Leverage. There are some factors most people are aware. You have interest rate. Terms of the loan are also vary. Could be the time in the loan, it'd be 30 years, 15 years, or 20 years, the amount that it's financed, and then what the costs are of the loan. Typically, people that is investors get a 25% or more down payment. That's what they put down. They get a loan for 75% or less, and they use their income as collateral. The percent of equity affects how fast that the loan pays off. And also the term of the loan and the rate of the loan. So these are a few different loans, but the top ones are at 6.5%. You can see at year one, if you have a 30-year loan at 6.5%, you pay off about 3.4% of the loan in the first year. At year 10, you're paying off about 6% of the loan each year. Or I'm sorry, please forgive me. This is on the $100,000 capital. It's not that you're paying off 3.4% of the loan. Rather, you make a return on your invested capital of $100,000. So you pay off about $3,400. And at year 10, you're paying off $6,000, which is 6% of that $100,000. At an 8.5% rate, those numbers are a little bit lower. 30-year, it's 2.3, and there's a 10-year. At year 10, you're paying off $4,900 of that, and so that's the return on your $100,000 investment. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. If it's a 15-year, obviously your returns are higher. You're paying yourself back, and that means more is going towards the pay down the equity on the loan. So you're paying that loan down faster, and so those are the numbers that are there. 6.5. Well, the lower the interest rate, obviously, the higher return you get. That's kind of what it looks like. Drawn out, $400,000 loan, $100,000 down, 25%. Mortgage at $300,000 and at 6.5, which is the blue line, and 8.5 interest rate. So you can see the loan pay down. The blue line, lower the interest rate, it pays down sooner, and the red line, the higher the interest rate, it doesn't pay down as fast. It pays off more towards the end. 15-year, you can see how it accelerates the same amount of time. That is 30 years, but it pays off in 15. So you have that, you've gained that $300,000 in equity in the property over 15 years rather than the 30. The payment will also substantially change. Leverage also magnifies the returns. If you put $200,000 down on a $200,000 property, if you have an increase of $10,000 in value, your return on your investment of $200,000, which is 100% down, paid for the property in total, is 5%. If you have $100,000 down, 50% loan, 50% down, that $10,000 increase in value means that you have a 10% return on your $100,000 invested. With $50,000 down payment or $150,000 in the loan, your payment is at 25%, but your return on investment with a $10,000 increase is 20% of that $50,000. So the less money you put down, obviously, the higher return on the less money that you put down. Appreciation, loan pay down, these things grow. The appreciation of the property goes up. That is, the value of the property goes up. And the space in the middle between those lines is the amount of equity that you're growing. So you're growing in both directions, paying down the loan, which is a red line, and paying off, well, and the property is appreciating at the same time. So it's going up. Lastly, tax benefits. You get write-off from the mortgage expense, write-off of your expenses, depreciation, and 1031 exchange. The 1031 exchange, I talked to somebody a few years ago. He said that whenever they sold property, they never did a 1031 exchange. And I think it is because they felt like the taxes were going to accumulate and then they'd have to pay them later. But actually, I don't think it was the way that they thought, that you just postpone and you pay off the taxes at whatever you sell it for at the end. But if you pay your taxes and don't do a 1031 exchange, then you're transferring less money to the next property when you buy it. So, right, are there any questions?
No, so far so good.
Okay, depreciation on residential property is 27.5 years. I typically use, when I'm calculating depreciation, 80% of the value of the property. Talking about single family homes, as the improvements are 80% and the land value is 20%. I'm not a CPA. I don't pretend to be one either. So inherent value, cash flow and equity position, add value, repair, improve the property, or add on to the property. Value growth, which is appreciation, leverage, which is loans, and tax benefits, 1031 exchange, all the write-offs. Cool.
That was good.
All right.
Any questions?
No,
Simple.
I'm good so far.
Well,
Good,
we're
glad to hear it.
hoping, we're hoping that the rates will shift enough to where we could start looking at 15-year financing again. When the interest rates were 4.5% and under, our recommendation at the time is buy everything with 15-year loans or 20-year loans, because your equity is built up much, much, much quicker than with a shorter loan. So we're hoping that the rates come down enough. I figure if it hits 5%, maybe just a little bit below, I think the formula for 15-year loan financing is going to be back, and it's going to make great sense. Hopefully the rents will be there. Well, the down payment to make that happen is less than it would be if you were at 7% or 6.5%. So you don't have to put as much down to make the numbers pencil. So that's one of the hopeful things that I think is going to happen next year, but we just got to watch.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
Well, rates might come down before next year, correct?
Well, that's the rumor, but
Well,
you
they
know,
say the rates are going to come down. They've already come down because they think the Fed's going to lower the interest rates, the federal funds rate. So I was
Yeah.
talking to a lender yesterday, and they said they were at just over 6%, where 3 weeks ago they were about 6.5%. So they've come down
Okay.
almost a half point already.
it looks at the 10-year bond rate, so it kind of follows that a little bit.
Yeah, it
So
does.
it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how long it's going to take for the Fed rate drop to trickle down to mortgages. So we've got to get through the winter, through the holidays. And I really think that come spring, we might see some more relief on interest on mortgages.
Mhm. Okay.
So it's
Okay.
it's a,
Well, thank you so much for attending.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. All right. So you guys,
Mhm.
at 2 o'clock, you guys are gonna have a follow-up at 2?
yeah,
Yeah.
we got another one.
Okay.
At
All right.
2.
I'll if you know, I'll try to make myself available if I could. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good. I hope to see you there.
all right,
Okay.
guys.
Thanks, Omar.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Omar.
Bye. Sure. Bye.